Hello, everybody. All right. So happy Tuesday, everybody. So, tonight we are going to continue and probably finish up what we started last night with the overview of Canadian comics history. Now, of course, we're focusing on the English speaking comics, as it were. So as we wait a few minutes to give people a chance to come in, I'm going to go off camera here for a moment, take care of a couple of things, and then when I come back, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to put on some music here while I'm gone. All right, I'm back. Let's see if anything yet. Okay, let me just do one more little tidbit there, and then we will. All right. So, anyways, as I was mentioning earlier, of course, we are going to go ahead and continue what we started last night. So there won't tonight. Of course, we won't have any rest and wrap up. I've decided that when I do these specials like this during the week, I will cut out, with the exception of the this day in each history, we'll cut out the other news segments. Just like we normally, just like we do when we do the comic retrospect and panel show. But with that, if you haven't already, of course, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people on here, that'd be appreciated. Also, anything here we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will do our best to answer those questions. So let me just do one more quick thing here. See if I can trim in a few more people. No. Okay, so with that, I guess we can go ahead and get started then. We're now 6 minutes into this thing. All right, so last night, as you all know, we covered the early days of Canadian comics history. We covered pretty much the 40s into the early 70s there, going from, of course, some of what they call the Canadian whites, where they had the colored covers but the white interiors. Let's see. And we were introduced to such characters as Nelvana of the Northern Lights, who was Canada's version of Wonder Woman, Canada Jack, Canada's version of Uncle Sam. Let's see, Captain Canuck, who is a variation, who was their version of Captain America. So, and of course, we saw how there were some American publishers that were able to get up into Canada as well. So, and then throughout a lot of the restrictiveness, how they would apply their own version of what came to be known here in the States as the Comics Code Authority. So with that, we're gonna continue with from the mid 70s, from what they called the New Wave period, just after the period of the underground comics period. New Wave. So here we go. All right, New Wave, mid 1970s and 1980s. The mid 1970s saw the beginning of a new wave of Canadian comics, one in which the creators chose to remain in Canada rather than seeking their fortunes south of the border. And that's south of the Canadian border, not to be confused with south of the border, south of the American border. Richard Cumley's Captain Canuck appeared in July 1975, the first appearance of a non-satirical superhero in Canada since the 1940s. So, Captain Canuck, let's take a quick peek at him and see. So, Captain Canuck is a Canadian comic book superhero created by cartoonist Ron Leishman and artist-writer Richard Cumley. The original Captain Canuck first appeared in Captain Canuck #1, July of 1975. Since the collapse of the nation's comic book industry following World War II. Captain Canuck, kind of funny because at least the costume design seems similar to a Marvel hero, Guardian. I think Guardian had kind of that same kind of uniform. So alter ego, the first and fourth alter egos were Tom Evans, Darren Oak was the second, and David Semple was the third. The first version of Tom, I guess the first version of Captain Canuck had super strength and super speed, and then the fourth version, or I guess Tom Evans, eventually developed super strength, speed, enhanced durability, super suit with a variety of technical abilities. So basically, Yeah, in some ways, he kind of was like a guardian. I wonder if Marvel um, decided to use this guy as a as an archetype for use this guy as an archetype for Guardian. Hey, 1975 and heroically flooding pants. Okay. And if you haven't already, of course, if you can like and share the stream so we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, continuing on then with the article here, appeared in July. Okay, yeah. During the 1950s and 1960s, the idea of native comics seemed unattainable to Canadian kids, and the appearance of Captain Canuck gave these kids the optimism to make their own. This was followed up with James Wally's more professional newsstand distributed Orb, which featured a number of talents that would later take part in the North American comic scene. The comics magazine showing up in Canada at the time suffered from promotion and distribution problems. Comics magazines. However, getting most of their support from the fan press, Phil Suling's California-based comics distributor Bud Plant was supportive of these underground and alternative comics, uh, though and help get them into stores. Eventually, distributors like Bud Plant and the emergence of specialty comic shops would form a distribution network for small press comics that would thrive independently of the traditional newsstand. So, again, in both the States and Canada, this was the period where the underground or independent comic scene was really thriving. As we're seeing kind of a resurgence of that in the last 4 or 5 years here in recent. So the picture there, Lynn Johnston's For Better or For Worse, most widely distributed Canadian comic strip. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one too. I think I've seen some highlights of that. And here's my sketchbook. Hey, my sketchbook. Hey, oh. So yeah, so we're of course going over the history of Canadian comics. If you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people here. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So with that, continuing on here, the world of comic strips saw a number of works pop up. Ben Wicks was doing The Outsiders, and Wicks, Jim Unger's Herman, debuted, was doing The Outsiders and Wicks. Jim Unger's Herman debuted in 1975, and Ted Martin's Pavlov in 1979. So let's take a quick peek at Herman here. Let's see what Herman was. Herman is a comic strip written and drawn by Jim Unger, while the daily ran as a single panel with typeset caption. It expanded every Sunday as a full multi-panel strip with balloons. Okay, genres: humor, gag-a-day, satire, adults. So that's what Herman was. So, hey, Woody's here at the Hail Chat and a hearty handshake. Herman is fantastic. All right, so continuing on here with the article here. In 1978, Lynn Johnston, living in Lynn Lake, Manitoba, began for better or for worse, which was noted for following the lives of the Patterson family as they grew older in real time. Wow, that's an interesting comic. We have reality TV shows nowadays, so I guess they were trying their hand at reality comics. ah, and I think I have seen some strips of this before in passing. For Better or for Worse is a comic strip by Lynn Johnston that ran originally from 1979 to 2008, chronicling the life Patterson family and their friends in the town of Millsboro, a fictional suburb of Toronto, Ontario. Now running as reruns for Better or for Worse, it's still seen in over 2,000 newspapers throughout Canada and the U.S., about 20 other and about around 20 other countries. So, and they got that dog too right up front there. That definitely catches my attention. For Better was good too. Let's see now. Dealt with real life. The strip based on a number of its storylines on Johnson's real life experiences with her own family, as well as social issues such as uh, the midlife crisis, divorce, and coming out of a gay character, child abuse, and death. In 1985, she became the first female cartoonist to win a Reuben Award, and the Friends of Lulu added her to the Women Cartoonists Hall of Fame in 2002. The strip was very popular in over 2,000 newspapers in 25 countries. So let's see. The Reuben Award. So just so we know. The National Cartoonist Society Reuben Award started in 1954 as the Billy DeBeck Memorial Award, the Barney, now named after Rube Goldberg. Now, Rube Goldberg, of course, that was a cartoonist known for doing Lollapalooza, as well as being named for a very complex, complicated form of a mousetrap, as we've heard. So, award weekend is an annual gala event. So it's a comics award. Let's see now as we continue on here. And the Friends of Lulu, which I'm guessing is some kind of group based on, let's see, it was a nonprofit national charitable organization in the United States, which opened in 1994 up to 2000, promote readership of comic books by women. And I'm guessing Lulu came from the idea of the comic strip Lulu. That's what I'm guessing. Lulu, of course, was a comic book character that was published by Harvey Comics, as I recall. So, along with like Little Audrey, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Richie Rich, and the like. So, sorry, just came back. What's the topic? We're just doing an overview of Canadian comics history, because it's part two. Basically, we'll probably conclude it tonight. I started part one from World War II up through like the early 70s, as requested, of course, by J.R. Exner here. So we're looking back at the history of Canadian comics, finding out some very interesting stuff here, and how they even connect to the American comic scene in many ways. Anyways, as we continue on here, let's see, where are we at here? Oh yeah, okay. Editorial cartoonists held considerable sway between the 1950s and through the 1970s. Former Prime Minister Joe Clark has been quoted that he lost votes in the election of 1980 due to political cartoons about him. They have also experienced the fear of censorship through the courts or libel chill. Libels, I wonder what that could be. That's an interesting term. Let's chilling. So it's just another name for. In a legal context, a chilling effect is the inhibition or discouragement of the legitimate exercise of nature and legal rights by the threat of legal sanction. So basically, what they're saying is um, chilling effect or libel chill, as I guess they call it here, um, was basically the threat that if you keep doing it, we're just going to shut you down. We're just going to sue you with libel suit. Basically, kind of like what they've done to other people. You know, what we've seen. In terms of cancel culture and stuff like that. Hey, Metal. Thanks for popping in. And of course, if you guys haven't already, you guys can like and share the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer them to the best of our ability. So, anyways, as we continue on here, in 1979, Robert Blurman and the Victoria Times were the subject of a libel suit when he criticized the policies of William van der Zalm, the British Columbia Minister of Human Resources, with a cartoon of the minister pulling the wings off flies. When the courts ruled in van der Zalm's favor, newspapers across the nation ran their own versions of the cartoon in support until the BC Court of Appeals reversed the ruling in 1980, deeming the cartoon quote unquote fair comment. It was later acquired by the National Archives of Canada. I don't know why anybody would get bent out of shape or somebody drawing a cartoon of them pulling flies or pulling wings off of fireflies. I mean, that sounds kind of lame to me. To go to that much trouble over it. See, fair comment. Let's see what they mean by that. Fair comment is a legal term for a common law defense in defamation cases, libel and slander. It is referred to as honest comment in some countries. Yeah, so I'm sure they have slap statutes in Canada. That make it easier to do a slap suit. It was later acquired by the National Archives of Canada. All right. So as we continue on here, Captain Canuck and Orb both folded by 1976, but in Kitchener, Ontario, in December 1977, Dave Sims' independent comic book Cerebus debuted, and would become the longest lived or original Canadian comic book. So let's look a little bit about what Cerebus says here. Who Cerebus is. Also Cerebus the Aardvark. Let's see. So Cerebus the Aardvark is a comic book series created by Canadian cartoonist Dave Sim, which ran from December 1977 until March 2004. The title character of the 300-issue series is an anthropomorphic aardvark who takes on a number of roles throughout the series: barbarian, prime minister, and pope among them. Series stands out for experimentation in the form of content and for the dexterity of its artwork. All right. Oh. Genre was parody of sword and sorcery, early issues, fantasy, comedy, political satire, drama, mid-period issues, and then later issues, theology. So quite a bit there. Quite a bit there. Dave Sims seems to be a big name in comics from around that time period. William Vanderzolm was definitely an early Trump. He was outrageous and hilarious. He later became premier of British Columbia. Okay. I'm sure he was probably more trying to make things more like, well, I guess maybe on the liberal side of things because, anyways, benefiting from distribution in the emerging comic shop market, it started as a Howard the Duck like parody of Barry Windsor Smith's Conan the Barbarian um, comics. The story eventually grew to fit Sims' expanding ambitions, both in content and technique, with its Earth Pig protagonist getting embroiled in politics, becoming prime minister of a powerful city state, then a pope who ascends to the moon, all within the first third of all its projected 300 issues. Um, Sim came to conceive the series as a self-enclosed story, which itself would be divided into novels, or graphic novels, which were gaining in prominence in the North American comic book world in the 1980s and 90s, while Sim and his partner Gerhardt's technical achievements impressed and influenced his peers. Sim also spoke out for creators' rights, promoted his peers and up and coming creators, and fiercely promoted self publishing as an ideal. So basically, they were Canada's version of Comicsgate before Comicsgate was even a thing, sounds like. Huh. All right, so as we continue on, where were we at here? All right. Sim also spoke. Okay, yeah, we saw that part. Americans Jeff Smith with Bone and Terry Moore with Strangers in Paradise took Sim's cue, as did Canadian Moke, Mark Oakley, and his long-running Thieves and Kings. Eddie Campbell took Sim's personal advice to self-publish and collected From Hell at the turn of the century. Sim also stirred considerable controversy, sometimes with the content of Cerebus, and sometimes with his editorials and personal interactions. David Boswell was amongst those in the 1980s who made the jump from the fanzine world when he began self-publishing. Reed Fleming, World's Toughest Milkman, in 1980. From out of the same scene, Bill Marks started publishing the anthology Vortex in Toronto. In 1982, Marks' Vortex Comics expanded into publishing other comics. The publisher gained publicity for Mr. X, um, which employed the talents of Dean Motter, Gilberto and Jaime Hernandez, and later Torontonians Seth and Jeffrey Morgan. Most notably, Marks picked up Chester Brown's Yummy Fur, a taboo breaking series which started in 1983 as a self-published photocopied mini-comic. It generated some buzz, and Vortex started publishing it professionally at the end of 96. Yummy Fur's stories were a mix of genres, with the improvised, surreal Ed the Happy Clown, straight adaptation of the Gospels, and revealing bare all autobiographical stories. Brown would become a major figure in Canadian comics. I'm almost done with this part. Getting into the 90s part soon here. Let's see. As the content of the comics matured throughout 1980s, they became the subject of increased scrutiny. In 1986, Calgary comic shop Comic Legends was raided and charged with obscenity. In response, Derek McCullough and Paul Stockholm of Strawberry Jam Comics established the Comic Legends Legal Defense Fund to help retailers, distributors, publishers, and creators fight against obscenity charges. To raise funds, they published 2 True North anthologies of Canadian talent. During this time, large numbers of Canadian artists are making waves in American comic book market as well, such as John Byrne, who we know took over Superman post-crisis, Gene Daly and his brother Dan, Jim Craig, Rand Holmes, Jeff Isherwood, Ken Steacey, Dean Motter, George Freeman, and Dave Ross. Byrne was particularly popular for his work on X-Men and also originated Alpha Flight, about a team of Canadian superheroes. Yeah, and who is a part of Alpha Flight? Guardian, Vindicator, who of course was as I said, was probably got the inspiration for that from Captain Canuck. Excuse me. In 1990, Montreal-based publisher Drawn and Quarterly began with an anthology title, also named Drawn and Quarterly. It quickly picked up a number of other titles, including Julie Doucet's semi-autobiographical bilingual Dirty Plot, which, like Yummy Fur, had started out as a mini-comic. Seth's Palookaville, illegal resident from the U.S., Joe Matt's Peep Show, and Yummy Fur, which made the jump with its 25th issue. At the time, an autobiographical comics trend took place. Brown, Seth, and Matt, in particular, were thought of as a Toronto comics rat pack. Now, for those of you who may not understand that term, the rat pack was a term popularized here in the States by a group of Hollywood actors, entertainers who are known for frequenting Vegas quite a bit. This is like Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Jerry Lewis, I believe, or Frank Sinatra, one of the two. Depicting one another in their comics and doing signings and interviews together. Drawn and Quarterly was at the forefront of the maturation of comic books saw in the 1990s, publishing and promoting the works of adult-oriented Canadian and international artists. The publisher avoided genres like superheroes, which publisher Chris Oliveros saw a stifling comics growth, as stifling comics growth. These comics had artistic aspirations, and graphic novels became increasingly prominent, with Brown's autobiographical The Playboy and I Never Liked You, and Seth's full autobiographical It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken, garnering considerable attention. So we're getting into the 90s now, what they were doing here in the 90s. Is this live? Yes, it's live. If yes, why? Laugh out loud. Okay. Alrighty then. Another one of our kind of infrequent visitors there. Anyways, getting back to the article here. Todd McFarlane from Calgary had been making waves since the late 1980s, illustrating comics for DC and Marvel Comics. Becoming a fan favorite writer artist for Spider-Man, he eventually left to co-found the creator-owned comics publishing collective Image Comics, where he debuted the enormously successful Spawn. Spawn holds the record for most copies sold of an independent comic, and was the most financially successful comic franchise of the decade. Yeah, it was so popular that it had its own animated series too that would air on HBO. So it became quite a franchise, quite a successful franchise. There's Metal. Yo, Mike. There's Summer. All right, so as we continue on here, so I find the cursor. So now we're getting into the 21st century here. At the dawn of the 21st century, the comic industry had changed considerably. So let me check where we're at on time here. 30 minutes, okay. Oh, yeah, we'll be able to finish this up tonight from the looks of it. The graphic novel had come into its own. The traditional comic sales dropped significantly. Louis Riel, who had been a major target of John Bengo's characters in the early days of Confederation, was a protagonist in Chester Brown's award-winning, best-selling comic strip biography. With his graphic novels and book collections, he gained a wider audience than he had with his serial comic books, and he abandoned serial comics entirely to focus on original graphic novels after Louis Riel. Greater appreciation of the art form was shown when Brown and Seth became recipients of grants from the Canada Council for the Arts. Dave Sims Cerebus completed its planned 26 year, 300 issue run in 2004. Foreign comics, especially Japanese, became quite successful in Canada. Japanese manga is also known as mangas, and stood out for gaining large numbers of female fans who had traditionally stayed away from comic books. With all the Joshi titles and doji titles out there. Let's see. They also had a significant influence on artists such as Brian Lee O'Malley and his Scott Pilgrim series, due to differing social norms. The content of these comics are sometimes censored or ran afoul of Canadian customs officials. Incidental nudity could be interpreted by them as child pornography and result in jail terms. Drawn and Quarterly has become known as a house of art comics, translations of non-English works like Montrealer Michael Rabagilatti's Paul series, and archive editions of classic comics such as Wright's Little Nipper. The publisher has earned a reputation for the special attention they put into book design and has played a pivotal role in shaping comics' rise in artistic prominence and in getting comics into mainstream bookstores in both Canada and the U.S. The EQ publisher, Chris Oliveros, along with Art Spiegelman, lobbied bookstores to include a section for graphic novels, which would be subdivided by subject. All right, so webcomics such as Kate Beaton's Hark, A Vagrant, Ryan Sommer and Lar de Souza's Looking for a Group, and Carl Kirsch's The Abominable Charles Christopher, became an increasingly popular outlet for Canadian cartoonists. Popularity of Beaton's work has led to it being published in book form, with Time magazine placing it in the top 10 fiction books of 2011. The comics community in Canada had grown and has grown appreciative of its talent, celebrating it with awards such as the Doug Wrights and Joe Shuster's, as well as with classy events such as the International Toronto Comic Arts Festival, which has been co-sponsored by the Toronto Public Library since 2009. All right, so that's it for that. I said we're just primarily covering English comics. I do need to step away for, well, let me check this out. Scott Pilgrim is the bomb, Elboca. Hey, Mike, all others. Hey, Rick. So I'm going to need to step away for a quick moment. I'll be right back. I will put on some music for you guys, though, while I'm gone, but I'll be right back. All right, I'm back now. So let's see. There apparently were some comments here. So let's see. Hey, Rick and Metal. And let's see. I own most of the Herman comic collected volumes. I had forgotten Jim Unger was Canadian. Yeah. So with that, so as I said, we're gonna cut out the wrestling rap since that's usually new for these special issues. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna start to wind things down. So we're gonna get right into this day in each history. So let me just review my stuff, and then we'll probably wrap up here pretty quick. 718, 1963, 1953, and 2008. All right, so with that, so today being Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! First off, we're going to head back 70 years ago today, as on this date, 70 years ago today, and yes, I did make sure this time to make sure that it was, in fact, 8th. On this date, 8 years ago today, the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes theatrical cartoon short, Bully for Bugs, debuted in movie theaters on this date back in 1953, 70 years ago today. It was directed, of course, by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese. This was a cartoon featuring Bugs Bunny as a matador. So hence the title, Bully for Bugs. On this date, 70 years ago today, the Warner Brothers theatrical short, Bully for Bugs, premiered in movie theaters. Remember all. I start chill stream at 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, feel free to share your link, Rick, if you want. People can go over there after after I'm done here if they want. Or yeah. So with that, actually now moving on to the next piece in each history. Move ahead to 1963, 10 years later. On this date in 1963, Vern Gagne would regain the AWA world title from Fritz von Erich in Amarillo, Texas. So, at a show in Amarillo, Texas on this date 60 years ago today, Vern Gagne would regain the AWA World Heavyweight Championship from Fritz von Erich. With that. And here's, I believe, the link to Rick's show stream if you guys want to go check that out. With that, moving on to the next piece of Nietzsche history here as we move ahead to 2008. On this date in 2008, Studio 4 Degree C's Detroit Metal City premiered as an OVA on this date in Japan 15 years ago today. So 15 years ago today, 4 Degree C's Detroit Metal City would premiere on this date in Japan. And finally, going back 5 years ago today, on this date 5 years ago today, back in 2018, the 10th and final issue of Image's Eternal Empire went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 2018. It sold for $4.99 with 36 pages. On this date, 5 years ago today, the 10th and final issue of Image's Eternal Empire went on sale on this date. Well, anyways, guys, I thank you for being here tonight. the last couple of nights in which we had a bit of an overview of Canadian comics history. Hope you all enjoyed it. So tomorrow night we'll be back to regular news. We'll probably do a regular newscast tomorrow night and then do the Indie Comic Showcase following night, as we haven't been doing news the last couple of nights here. So I hope everybody be back tomorrow night. And don't forget, of course, this Friday, Metal will be joining me as we look back to comics that went on sale in November of 1939. This week we'll be focusing in on comics that went on sale from Lev Gleason, or the one comic that went on sale, Lev Gleason, Silver Streak, Volume 1, Issue 2. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see you all back here tomorrow. Bye.